manage the chat. I asked one girl who said that she was interested in being a leader.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's easy enough to just pop in there and look at it when you see things pop up, I guess.
Well, I wanted to keep track of all of the emails and like where people are from, because I have them, but so many people on Messenger and an email and all this stuff in different locations started sending me their information that with everything else I have to do, I have a list, but I'm not confident that it's everyone. Maybe I should put my email in the chat and just say, please send me your email and your information.
That would probably
and then
work.
or I could like start a Google Doc so that I could get everybody to send their information on the
I was actually doing some research on that because I want to be able to get email addresses from all of my group.
Yeah.
And if I use a Google Doc or a Google form, they have to have Google accounts in order for me to
oh yeah, and I saw a lot of people have Hotmail still, which is shocking, but true.
Yeah. Yeah, so it only helps if somebody has a Gmail account. That's gonna be fine. But yeah, I'm sure that we can have a form somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm afraid that, and I don't think we're very far away. I think that
do I have to unmute
all the
people?
reopening groups are going to be shut down by Facebook, I think.
Okay.
No, they should.
Really?
You just
Oh yeah, we've already been threatened with it. I know Jonathan's been threatened with it too. Because they don't want anything that's contrary to their view on things at all.
Oh my God, I hope that's not true.
Yeah, me too. That's why I wanted to get everybody's email address, because they already put limits on our group, which they then removed with no explanation. They just said, "Oh, you have to approve." They put us in charge of approving people's posts, and then they say that we're going to be held responsible if somebody else posts something that goes against their community standards, which is crazy. That's the way it goes.
I'm gonna hold on one second. Okay, I'm giving people a little bit, 5 more minutes to sign in here. Hello to everybody that's there. I'm so happy that everyone was willing to come together. We all have a lot of different things going on, and I'm really looking forward to hearing a little bit more about what several people are up to. And not only that, figuring out how we can work together. And I think starting with some kind of communication, like a listserv, is a good idea, but we have to figure out how to get approval from people to be on such a listserv and start creating it. And one of the things we need to do is get your email and your county and your district. And I've collected a lot of those here and there, but I would love it to be in a more organized fashion. So if anyone is on this call that is willing to copy and paste from the chat into any Excel or Word document, can you unmute and let me know? Because I think it will be hard for me to do the meeting and copy and paste from the chat. All right, well, we can try to save the chat if that's hard for people to do.
Somebody in the chat just said that they could do it, so. Oh, that was from me. Okay, from Jenny.
Oh, Jenny?
Yeah. Hi, Jenny.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Jenny is, Jenny, why don't you introduce yourself to the people that are here?
Okay, my name is Jenny Sang, and I'm in Contra Costa County. So I'm kind of leading a parent group in my area, 2 areas. One is mainly called Contra Costa Parents for In-Person Learning, and then the other one is the Contra Costa Parent Union. So that's kind of that's where I'm at, so.
Okay, thank you so much, Jenny. Thanks for doing. Just gonna let a couple more people join.
Yeah. What is it? 15, 17? 13, 17.
No, that's tennis court is about 16. So 17. Yeah, 17.
And if anyone is here that I didn't have on that agenda, could you also make sure that you write your name and county and district in the chat? Because I know I don't have everyone on the original email.
What do you mean by district?
Just the school district that you're
okay.
representing, and then the county that you're in. I'm in Monterey County and my school district is Carmel Unified School District.
Okay.
Okay, well, we've had a few minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and start. I am doing this because it came to my attention that the teachers union had a lot more power than I ever realized when the pandemic hit. I think that some people, and there is a representative here from the parent union from the California Policy Institute, was already aware that the union was gaining a lot of power and was worried about that. But for me, it really just happened when the pandemic hit that I realized that my board wasn't giving the parents a voice at all. Right now, I'm really worried because our schools are closed mostly because of the teachers union. We have 4 million children in California that live on the poverty line or below. We have 30% of our California families that are run by single parents. So that means that parents are being asked to leave their kids at home alone or go to work to put food on the table. And that is a horrible position to put people into. When parents calculate risk about going back to school, we think about this very small risk of COVID, which is hardly anything if you're following the state and federal guidelines. We think about the risk of depression if we keep our kids at home. We think about the risk of learning loss if we keep our kids at home. And we think of suicide possibilities, the worst case scenarios if teens are home alone and are in a depressive state. So we're calculating all these risks. And for us, when we think about our teachers, our students, and all the risks to our students, we think it's safer to be in school than not. And in fact, Governor Cuomo has said several times that it's safer for kids in New York City to be in school following COVID guidelines than to be out on the streets doing whatever they want without masks. So I like to say that not only is it harming our children in terms of learning loss and depression, but it is for COVID, because teachers like to say it's keeping us safe. It's actually not keeping us safe. It puts children in more danger because they're in groups and doing whatever they want outside of school. So anyway, I just think that's a new talking point that I think is really important. I've been working here in Carmel. I started a petition and I got 1,400 signatures, which is pretty good because we have 2,400 students. I got a lot of pushback by the teachers union. I was completely harassed. I have parents that are just totally exhausted at this point. As Jenny and I have talked about, they're losing their will to keep fighting because we got approved for a waiver this week and there's still no discussion of school being started and parents are exhausted. They're trying to work at the same time, a lot of parents, as they're trying to school their children. And we're just all in this horrible state. The last thing I want to mention is that in order to prove how worrisome this is, that the teachers have this huge lobby and our children have no one lobbying for them, is that the teachers union spent $15 million to win school board seats this past election season in Los Angeles alone. They spent $100,000 to win the 3 seats in San Diego on each seat. Where parents were spending about $1,000 for each seat, the teachers union was spending $100,000 to win each of those seats. So this is really dangerous and scary because, and I'm fine with having a union for the teachers that wants to sit at the table. I get it. They need to have that representation. But where's our representation? And where's the representation for our children? It is not there. So I looked on Facebook and I've seen we've got lots of different groups going. Could everybody mute, please, if you're not speaking? Thank you. So I looked on Facebook, I see that everybody's doing great things in little bubbles. Some people are like me, starting to lose energy, and their groups are starting to lose energy because of the pushback. And I want to see if there's ways that we can bridge our groups, get people working together. I want to make one final comment before I open it up, because we have a few people that I'd much rather hear from, not just myself. As we try to connect, we need to, in this forum, we really need to end the talk about if it's Trump's fault or if it's Biden's fault or if it's the California governor's fault. Like, I can see your reasons on every side, and they probably all have led us into this situation. However, if we're going to work together, we need to focus on the students, and we need to really believe that our core mission and goal is to get these kids back at school and further down the line in the future to give parents a voice against the teachers union in California. We far outnumber the union, so there's power in numbers. We need information now to spread out to people. There's information is power, and we need to figure out how to coordinate that information so that we can all work together. So anyway, first of all, I have someone here, Cecilia. Cece, are you here on the call yet? Could you unmute if you're here, please? Hi, Cecilia. Do you see me? Hi.
Yes,
You're
yes,
unmuted. Hi, Cecilia. So Cecilia, I think you said you have 4 different groups that represent a parent union division with you. And could you tell us a little bit about what they've been doing and how they've been helping each other and how you've been able to help them? And just a little bit about the parent union for your institution.
So hi everyone, thank you for having me, Jill. The way it started, the parent union is exactly what you've been describing. Is a group of frustrated parents here in Santa Ana. I was prior about 6 years I served on the school board here in Santa Ana. And one of the things that really hit me once I was elected was the whole control that the teachers union has on our parents, also on the students, the curriculum and everything, and also how they elect the board members to be part of the school board. And what you stated, Jill, is very true. They spent so much money to get their representatives elected because they know that they'll be doing the bargaining for them. And really, there's no seat at the table for the parents, even after the whole, local control funding formula, the LCAP and all that we're supposed to be they're very transparent to the parent community. They're not. They still, they come to those meetings with their own agenda, with their own talking points. So they really don't give us a voice. They just kind of give us a menu of what they want us to choose from, but really don't give it, open it up, like a clean slate in for the parents to provide that input and take it from there. So parents in Santa Ana, we were very disappointed that when the whole Prop 30, the money was coming to Santa Ana, didn't really reach the classrooms or reach our students. The first thing that the teachers union did, they bargained for their members. And they were able to, I would say, lobby the other board members to give them a 16% increase. And from that, it was about, I would say about $40 million that went directly to teachers' salaries and benefits. And it's not like these, the teachers get paid very low wages. Mostly an average in Santa Ana, it's about $100,000 a year. So with that, gave them a 16% increase. So those are the things that we saw that weren't fair. So parents in Santa Ana, we opened up, this whole movement, which was called the Parent Union, Santa Ana Parent Union. And it gave us an opportunity for us to really leverage that we had in Santa Ana. So we, I was on the school board then, and they spent a lot of money in the second time I ran in 2016. Almost $250,000, which is $250,000 against me, just for a school board seat. And what Jill was saying, they spend a lot of money, and it's just not only the money that comes from the association within the district, but also neighboring districts. Even CTA puts money in there, and also the other neighboring, it's not just only the teachers unions. All those unions, they come together to oppose because they know that you'll be challenging them. And if you challenge one group, they know that you'll be challenging the others. So, so we started this, and, it grew here in Santa Ana, then it grew in Anaheim. parents wanted a voice and a seat at the table. So we were, we were very successful in creating the chapters all over Orange County. And it was just parents more, they wanted a seat at the table and they also wanted choices. As you can see behind me, it says school choice. Parent union believes is, parents should have choices regardless of where you want to send your child to school, whether it be, your neighborhood school, which is the district school, or either a public charter school, homeschooling, or any, online learning. So one of the things that I would encourage all of you is, what Jill was saying, and we were noticing the same thing with the parent union is like, we have all these different groups. And I know right now the biggest focus is for us to reopen the schools, but ultimately what we need to do is focus on what really is driving all of these interruptions in our child's education. And it's a teachers union. They're the ones that are controlling the narrative. They're the ones that are controlling all our elected officials that work against the parents, even though they say they work for education, but it's education for them, not, how it benefits them, not how does it benefit our students and our parent community. So we have been with the parent union looking for opportunities for us to collaborate with other groups. And one thing that I can tell you is that the parent union has been recognized by the teachers union as one of their challenges and the barriers for them to take their message to our community, especially because, the way me having the experience being on the school board, I'm able to be able to read the budgets, be able to read the agendas and really understand what goes on when it comes to how they set their priorities and how their schools are run or the districts are run. So they know that when we talk about issues that we're very informed on what's really going on. And so they have really made it a point to target the parent union as saying, they want to discredit us, saying, we're not a valid group or whatever it is. It's because, the parent union, it's not just in itself, but we're a project of the California Policy Center. And the California Policy Center is a think tank here in California, and we focus on education reform. And they know that, we have the resources, we have the experience behind it. And I don't know if you guys have heard of this or have used it. Actually, it's a website called Transparent California, and that's where you'll find out how much each government employee, public employee here in California makes. And that was a project of the California Policy Center when it started in 2014. So they know that we do have the backup and of experience with us. So what I would encourage all of you all is to, for all of us to get together, because this way they'll know that we are serious about what we're doing. And they know that, when it comes to elections, that we could really put a very strong grassroots ground game to get other people elected, because, we'll provide them with how to reach out to parents, how to create a movement, and how to really provide that educational material that they need, and really question what the intents of the electeds are. So that's pretty much a brief summary of what we have been doing or what we want to continue doing. And we are here with the parent union trying, we are going to do that. We're going to create more civic engagement. So for those of you who are interested in providing or even becoming a candidate, let us know how we can help you. And we could always, we could work together so we can unite all of our forces across the state.
Thank you so much. That's really helpful, Cece. And when we collect all of the emails, if you could please in the chat put your name, your email, your county that you live in, and your district, your school district. We will create some sort of listserv so that we can start talking about these ideas, and maybe you'd be interested in being part of the parent union, and we can talk about if that might be a good way for us to bridge the gap. We can talk more about that in the Q&A. But for right now, if Jean Fulmer is here, Jean is a school board member, and she past and present, which is very interesting because she has this experience of being well liked by the teachers. And now she's having a harder time being liked by the teachers because she really is pro-student. And that has always been her position, has been to focus on the students. And I really appreciate that about a board member. So I would love to hear from her for a few minutes. If you could unmute if you're here, Jean.
I'm here. Can you see me? Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Jill, for doing this call. This is really exciting. I live in Lafayette, California. I'm on the school board here. We're a K-8 district. We're in Contra Costa County. This is my second term. I first ran in 2012, served 4 years, took 2 years off, came back to the board. You know, I right now am in a little bit out of favor with the union because I've really been pushing for the kids to get back to school. You know, we've been told to follow the science, and the science is indicating that it's safe to return. And now we're not following the science. So, you know, it's been really frustrating. We took a vote a couple nights ago. We started returning. We have 5 campuses, 4 elementaries and a middle. Last week, we returned our SDC students at 2 campuses. And now that we've been just suddenly moved into purple, we can't continue opening at the other sites without either reallocating employees, hiring new employees because of the cohort requirement. So we're just at this kind of crazy standstill. Parents are angry, understandably. And so, you know, we're looking for some leniency here, you know, just in terms of doing away with the cohort restriction once you go into purple, because they judge you based on site and not by district. And we have lost since August 293 students in a 3,200 student district, mainly to private schools, you know, some to home schools. And, you know, we just passed a parcel tax in March, bless you. We just passed a bond, you know, in 2016 because we were anticipating increasing enrollment. And now we're down essentially 12 classrooms, 12 teachers. So it's, you know, the funding will hit in a couple years. The state's going to float all the districts next year. You know, revenues
So
down.
excuse me, you're not a basic aid district, right?
No, we're not.
Okay.
We're not. We are not basic aid. We are just kind of this, you know, we're kind of always on the bubble. Our high school district that we feed into goes in and out of basic aid. So no, we're not. We get about 8,200 a student, and then, you know, our foundation and parcel taxes on top of that. So, you know, I've done, I don't know, I wouldn't be surprised if I haven't met some of you along the way here and there, like through Educate Our State. I volunteered with them a little bit here and there. And we started a parent, you know, it was the children's pack in 2016, and it never really got off the ground in a meaningful way. I think maybe because we were focusing on state legislators, and I love the idea, just some of the talk about focusing on school board candidates, because, you know, it shouldn't be expensive to run. It's like Jill and I discussed. I mean, you know, you should spend $1,000-$2,000 for something like this. This is a nonpartisan position. And unfortunately, the parties, at least around here, the Democratic Party has gotten, in my opinion, way too involved in, you know, seating school board members. Same with city council. These are both nonpartisan positions. And I think, you know, it starts initially with candidates. Don't ask the party for an endorsement because they have no business in these races. These are nonpartisan races. We are simply supposed to be serving our community. And, you know, from the school board standpoint, I mean, I always operate on what's best for kids, you know, and sometimes, you know, certain groups are pleased with, you know, what I'm doing, and sometimes they're not. I mean, it just, and that's just should be the nature of it. Like you shouldn't be governing based on.
Yeah,
oh
I
gosh, what's
totally
the
agree.
union
And that's
Yeah.
actually giving candidates the win. I mean, if you're supported by the Democratic Party
Yeah.
in most of these cases, and they give you that much money, you automatically win.
Yeah.
And that should not be
Well,
what
we
calls a
just have
race,
that at the high
especially if
school.
you're part of the teachers union,
Yeah.
because often the Democratic Party is just taking who's endorsed by the teachers union.
Yeah.
And then we have those two endorsements overlapping, and then you get $10,000, $20,000 worth of mailers, and you can win an election that way. And so if this is a nonpartisan
ballot
system, it should
questions.
not be either way.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you
No,
so much.
It really shouldn't. And I know
Yeah.
for a fact, yeah, I would have been taken out this year if I'd been on the ballot and if I'm on in 2 years. I mean, but yeah, we need to be nonpartisan, focus on the kids.
So thank you so much, Jean. And yeah, well, it's interesting what the California Policy Center is doing. They're going to have, and when we create this listserv, we can talk about it. They will have talks where they have campaign strategists talking to us to help us gain more information about what we can do to win these races if we have less money. And so that could be really useful and helpful if we can rely on them to give us that kind of information for free. And then the next person I have here, and I think I see that you're here, Shamik, are you here? And am I saying your name right?
Yes, I'm here, and yes, that is absolutely perfect.
Okay, and you're in Berkeley, right?
I'm in Berkeley, yeah.
And you've been able to start for some time now, but your district hasn't been started. They're stalling, right?
That's right. That's absolutely right. Yeah.
So I'd love to hear about your petition in the group that you started.
Yeah. So I should say that I was asleep at the wheel for the whole summer. I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on. And it was then we were given permission to open in early October and nothing happened. And it quickly became apparent that nothing was going to happen for a very long time. The board and the superintendent basically are trying to please everyone. So not just the teacher unions, but that like every single parent kind of opinion they're trying to satisfy in their reopening plan, which basically means it's impossible to come up with a plan that will satisfy all these different kind of demands. And so they still haven't figured out how to reopen even elementary schools. They haven't like determined on a specific plan. They haven't even started discussing middle and high schools, which is like literally like there's no plan. You know, even if it was safe to reopen right now, they're at ground zero on this. So it became really obvious that, you know, the best case scenario I feel is like fall 2021 at this point, you know, even if with a lot of pressure. And I feel like that was a really depressing kind of realization that I came to after watching a couple of board meetings, but it's just things are so broken here. So yeah, I connected with a bunch of other parents in Berkeley with kind of a minority around here. I think only about 25% of the families want to go back to school. And I decided to just keep the message really simple. Just listen to health officials, close when they tell us to close, but also open when they tell us to open, right? And we're only getting one half of that deal. And I guess the advantages of keeping it simple like that is that, you know, if someone disagrees with that, what they're effectively saying is, I don't want to listen to public experts. And no one, you know, around here at least, no one wants to like be in that position. So it's like a simple message that no one really wants to be in that sort of public position of denying. And I felt like that was more, might be more effective than trying to make like a complex epidemiological argument, because that can always be countered by other evidence and it's going to get messy. So I just try to keep it as really as simple as possible. We made a bunch of then demands for more transparency about the labor negotiations, like what exactly is the sticking point? Because I feel like all that happens in our board meetings is that the teacher union reps just come and say, well, look, there are these problems and we want stuff like we want a vaccine. But these are also sort of vague kind of statements that, I mean, when the vaccine comes out, they're probably going to turn around and say, well, we have to wait until 70% of the population takes it. And they can just keep moving the goalposts if they haven't produced like a very clear statement of like what.
Yeah, it seems like they're just kicking the can down the road. Like, I don't think, and as you're saying, I mean, I would really wonder if that's true, that they're truthfully trying to meet everyone's demands, because I find that hard to believe that they're truthfully trying to meet parents' demands if they can't seem to find a way to open, because with only 25% wanting to go back, you could open up your classrooms with 8 kids in a class.
No, I know, no, that's right. I think I gave the wrong impression. The way that these discussions go is that someone says, well, let's reopen like this. And then they'll say, well, that might involve students having to switch teachers in January. And there's some parents who don't want to do that. And so they use these conflicting demands as a stumbling block and as the reason.
But do you think that and it might not be the case, but do you think that the union has a lot to do with, you said that they're getting airtime at all these meetings. I know in our board, we hardly get any time to talk. And when we do say something, we often get put down about it. And then the union gets a lot of time to talk.
Yes, that's exactly the same. That's exactly the same here. You see, I still don't know the ins and outs. I've made a lot of demands for transparency, and I'm actually, this might be a question for you. I'm thinking about a freedom of information request, like for
Yes.
correspondence. I know I'm a professor at Berkeley. I know I'm subject to those kind of things. I don't know.
So we have, if you're interested, I mean, I am in contact with lawyers that have done a lot of requests for me. It's really easy for you to, like, for instance, I requested all the emails and texts and everything between the teachers union representative and my board, because I wanted to know who was at who was really causing this stall. And it was pretty clear.
Are they obliged to provide?
So unfortunately, in my case, and I was talking about this last night, our teachers union representative was a lawyer formerly. So he's found a lot of ways to keep that information from us, but I don't think that's going to be the case in most places. I think that the lawyer that I have she's gotten a lot of information that I would never have been able to get. And it might be worth it if you do have parents that really want to get information to get some help. That's not too expensive, just to do these kind of requests to get all the information you need. I'm sure you can read your MOUs, right? That must be online somewhere. Like your teachers should have signed an MOU with their teachers union should have signed an MOU with your school board.
What's an MOU?
With your superintendent. The superintendent and the union must have signed an MOU, possibly this summer. Okay. And there should be some guiding document to opening the school.
Right.
So that's something that should be available to you. And then if not, you might want to start gathering information with the use of a lawyer that specializes in this stuff. And it probably will not cost that much money. Just to do small things that we don't know how to do.
Yeah, because right now I'm just having to guess.
Don't give up, okay? Don't give up, because I know it's getting frustrating.
Yeah.
Well, don't give up, and we'll keep talking. And I have Nabella
thanks a lot.
here.
Thank you so much for organizing this. We really appreciate it.
So I'm hoping Nabella is on the line. If you could introduce yourself. She's from Livermore. She has she's got a group of hundreds of parents on social media that she's leading up, and she's been leading grassroots action, pro-parent, pro-student grassroots action in Livermore. And maybe she could talk to us about her group and what she's up to if she's here. Let's see if I can get her to unmute herself. Oh, maybe she did not sign in. All right, I'm gonna skip Nabella for now. Unless Lynette, I know you're here. You could talk about what happened in Livermore if you don't mind. Lynette Lopes, she's also in Livermore, and she's pro-parent and student. She could talk a little bit about what would be interesting for us to hear is how much you've worked with your son to advance him, and how the kind of ridiculous things that they're making you do with your son, like making him be online when he really shouldn't be. And just because we need to hear about and understand how unfair this is for our children. So if you could talk to us about just your personal story, and then maybe a little bit about what you think your group is doing, that would be awesome.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm in Alameda County, and Nabella has started a Facebook group, and we've kind of banded together. And I think currently we have almost 600 parents that are current members. And at our last board meeting, we had, I think, close to 50 different parents who came to speak, which it's been, we feel like the district is really just trying to kind of hide behind a task force that they have put together. And on this task force, they invited some parents, as well as the district is on this task force, and the union. So the union and the district, they're kind of blaming the parents, kind of putting it on, oh, well, the parents don't want to go into hybrid. The parents want to stay in distance learning for the remainder of the school year, when really a lot of our parents want to go back. And yet
Did
we
they
asked-
survey you? Did they survey the parents?
So they sent out a survey, and the survey in the very first question was, do you want to move into hybrid? And we needed a 67% supermajority to move into hybrid, which was absolutely ridiculous when we had been in the orange at that point for 6 weeks.
Okay. So, because I found that, I don't know if it's the case for you guys, but that our surveys are not fair. Like we get a survey that says, do you want a horrible hybrid option of 2 days, or do you want to stay home in distance learning? And so I put out my own Survey Monkey, and I did it a few days ago, and I have a few hundred students on there, and it showed right away that 50% want to go back full time. Only 7% want a hybrid option, and the 44% or something want distance learning. So it could easily be broken up, and you could give the majority of parents what they want, but they're not asking us those questions in the survey.
No,
So it's
and they gave an awful hybrid model that cannot work for working parents. For most parents, it cannot work going to school 4 days a week for 2 hours and 45 minutes. It just can't work if you have parents that are working. And then they also sent out a video that scared parents, saying that you might have to move, most likely your teacher, whether you're staying in distance learning or a hybrid, and possibly moving to a different school. And then they also scared parents and talked about COVID being like the Terminator. So they really tried to frighten everyone in staying in distance learning. So it's been a very interesting battle, but at the same time, they're expecting, I have a special needs child who needs my full attention. So for 3.5, like right now, it's 3.5 hours of online where him and I are sitting together online doing the work together without additional support.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I believe that Jonathan is on the line. I wasn't sure if he was going to make it here. He has a very large Facebook group that he organized, and it would be great if he could tell us a little bit about that. Jonathan Sackerson, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Thank you. Yeah, I can
Okay.
hear you. And how many people are on your Facebook group, and what is it called?
Reopen California Schools. And
how did this progress? And could you tell us a little bit about what you've seen that's possible with Facebook, and what some of the hurdles might be to, getting substantive things accomplished, and or what, the possibilities are?
Yeah, so I was frustrated back in April. Got involved then, and there was a large Let Them Play. I think it's called Let Them Play Now, but there was a large sports related one. But it was focused on sports, and so I was really focused on school. So I kind of created my own back in June, really for the sole purpose of having a protest at the Capitol, which was successful. It did require a lot of work, and the statewide one is good. What I've learned since is the local Facebook groups, the ones that are in your community, are the best. The state one's good for communicating large activities, seeing what's going on statewide, transmitting information that way. But when it comes to organizing and getting something done, it's the local Facebook groups that work. So for example, we have 2 here, one for Placer County, which is where I'm at, and then one specifically for the 2 school districts that cover my kids. There's a K through 8 and a high school district. And in those Facebook groups, we're able to corral parents, and they're involved, and they're posting about board members to vote for, what's going on at that level, when posting links to board meetings so people can click right there. I made it really easy to submit comments. For one of them, you can't speak during the meeting, you have to submit your comments ahead of time. So you say, hey, here's the deadline, click this link, the agenda item number is 10.3, go ahead and put your comments about why you want our kids to be in school. So it made it really convenient. And just as an example for the K through 8 board meeting that we had, the last 2, I want to say that there was like 60 comments, and the vast majority of them, and one of them, it was like 57 of the 60 comments were all parents speaking up in favor of going back to school full time. So that's just some of the, and we were able to successfully get all of the board members that we wanted elected, including unseating a few members in our area. We were able to get those people out of office and the new board members in that we wanted. So that's just kind of the power of the local group there. But even with that aside, we were here for the K through 8 groups, we're actually in school full-time effective November 4th. Not a hybrid. They're going back, they're 5 hours a day. The only thing that's really modified from the regular schedule is that it's a little bit shorter, and they're not doing a lunch on campus. It's a grab and go lunch. And that they're trying to avoid kids mingling during lunch that way. And that's why they shorten the day.
That's great.
Yep. So that's been great. And actually, there's still, always, the high schoolers are doing a hybrid for now until January 5th, in which they plan to go back full time for those who want it. I think the things that made us successful is, one, we had a community that was really involved. Two, we have one of the options that they were giving the families is that you had options. You could either do the online program for the remainder of the year, or you'd basically go back into what originally was going to be a hybrid model, hopefully going into a full-time model. And so that you just pick these two paths and they set the enrollment up in that way. And I think that's key to any success, is that way you're able to get, the families who are really scared, and want to be online, not necessarily battling with the parents that want to be in person. And then you're able to align teachers in those same models as well, that says, hey, they redo the enrollment and they get the parents and the teachers that want to be, for the most part, online for the remainder of the year. And then you have everybody else in a separate program. That's the traditional model. So that was a key success. And I think any district, that should be part of a proposal for anything, because that will help alleviate a lot of the problems. It's a little bit more of the harder on the administrative side, but I think it's well worth it to be able to get what we need. And then the other part that was successful is we were supposed to go back hybrid November 4th. And I kept following up and eventually was able to get on the phone with the superintendent to explain some of the things that were being said, which I believe was coming from teachers and teacher unions, but ultimately was able to persuade that, hey, what you're doing is not in accordance with the law. We were CDPH guidelines had no rules limiting distance between students. It was only where practicable. The only part that has some cohort guidance was that if you were in elementary school and you applied for the waiver, then they had some cohort guidance, but they were applying that cohort guidance as if we needed to follow it when we could open up regularly, right? Meaning outside of the purple tier. And so that was it. That was able to basically get the board to switch. And it was incredible. Even one of the board members that was against opening schools, who actually did get off the board, he even voted for it. So they voted 5-0 in the middle of October to switch from hybrid to full-time starting November 4th.
That is an amazing success story. That's amazing. Yeah, so I think that your lessons learned are really important, and we're going to listen to Kevin O'Donnell also, and he's also involved in rallying people on Facebook. But I think it's really important for this group. Your lesson learned about having those local Facebook groups is really important. And if we can all work together and then go to our local Facebook groups with talking points that we all agree on, that we think are helpful, and try to streamline our messaging, and maybe even our asks, like what we want to ask of those groups at the same time, it could be really helpful, I think, and help us bridge these gaps, or these build bridges amongst these groups and really come together.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is an example of where the larger group is great. We're able to share ideas, find out what's working, but a lot of the work, a lot of the time spent is going to be at that local groups, really corralling your neighbors, getting your friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
And being involved in those board meetings.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of lessons to be learned from you. So that's really useful. Thank you so much. And if Kevin O'Donnell is here, could you give us a few minutes of your time? We'd love to hear about your same perspective about those things.
Sure. How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Okay. Like Jonathan was saying, Jonathan and I have been, talking a lot behind the scenes during this whole thing. He set up his group before I did. Really, my group was set up because I found out that our sports were going to be shut down. And
excuse me. Could you mention your group name and how many followers are there also?
Sure. Yeah, our group is Reopen California Schools and Sports. And we were, like I said, back in July, found out that they were going to be shutting down all the sports, started a petition, got 10,000 people to sign it within a week and a half. And then during a call that I was doing with some of the moms, we set up a Facebook group so that we could communicate with each other back and forth, so we could, organize. And it just kind of ballooned from there. I think we have 5,000 members, 5,300, something like that. I think Jonathan's has 10,000. And we've been kind of working together with Jonathan a lot, because our groups are very, similar in the fashion that we all want the schools to be open, and we're all fighting for the same thing.
Do you think there's a lot of overlap in those two groups, or like, are there people that are of both groups, or do you think that they're really different audiences?
There are some similarities in the people that are in the groups, but I think that ours is more centered in the southern part of the state, in Southern California, and his is more centered in the northern part. Would you agree with that, Jonathan?
Yeah, I would agree. We have a lot of Sacramento base, so Sacramento Bay Area, Roseville. So it just seems to work out that way. So
that's really cool.
It kind of does. Yeah. It just kind of, and we've been working together.
And that's where I reside too. So
right, and that makes sense. And it's great that we have different, different pools to pull from. And when we need something done, we kind of post in both groups when the time comes. For doing protests, we've done a lot of protests. One of the successful protests I'll tell you about is that our high school kids, the union had put out some guidance to shut down high school, not let kids go back to hybrid at all. And it was gonna go to a vote in the school board. And in 48 hours, we planned and had 200, 300 people at the school board the morning before the meeting happened. And before we even started our protest, we got an email from the school board saying that's been withdrawn. So they listened. We had 300 people show up at the district office, and before we even started, they had changed their mind. Unfortunately, in our school board, we lost 2 seats to union-backed representatives, and that was very unfortunate. There's a lot of reasons why that happened, but unfortunately it did. And going forward, I think with our groups, and I know Jonathan and I have talked about this in the past, once the schools get open and once everything's back to normal, I see our group, and Jonathan, I think, agrees with this, that we're going to be using this as a platform to, endorse candidates and remember the people that were on our side and remember the people that were not on our side. And I think that, there may be some people that fall off because they're not going to be interested in doing that, but these groups will become that eventually, I think, once this time has passed.
I think that's even more of a reason to try to get them coordinated locally, that you don't, as time goes on, you don't lose track of them. And
the leaders of the groups need to be communicating, and Jonathan and I communicate. So I'm starting to join some of the smaller organizations just so that I'm there, so people can reach out to me if they need to. I joined a couple of the ones from the call we were on yesterday. And we just need to all stay in touch. And then when something big comes up, or even if you have a group that's, advertise your smaller group and the bigger groups, and you'll get people that are in your area that you didn't even know. There's, in Jonathan's group, there's 10,000 people, and a lot of them are from Northern California. So you post your group in there and you're bound to get some people that will join your group. And, organizing locally is fantastic. I think getting out there. I know it's hard to do. It's hard to get people organized to get out there, but I would suggest that you do it, because if your school is not open, if you don't have the choice, you deserve to have the choice. Every parent does. Whether you want to go back or not, that should be up to you.
Excuse me. I kind of noticed that your open school logo, the green one, I've noticed that some other people have used that. Are you encouraging people for the chapters they start on their websites to use your logo, or would you encourage that? Because I'm just wondering if
I'll explain a little bit about, and Jonathan and I had our group set up, and then Emily, there was another lady that set up that's a page. It's another group. That's a third group, is the Reopen California Schools with the whole green logo. And that's kind of a
Rally to Reopen California Schools.
Rally to Reopen California Schools. That's what it's called. And we are both kind of involved in that too. We haven't really been using it much, but I think that when we organize protests or rallies, I think we've kind of been using that platform to do it and then blast it out to our groups. So And I think that.
Sorry, who's the girl that runs Rally to Open California Schools?
Emily Wagner's her name, isn't it, Jonathan?
I think so. She's involved with it.
Yeah, she's the one that started it, and she added both Jonathan and I as admins to that group. So we're both in there, and I think we kind of use that as maybe an umbrella organization so that we can advertise things to more of a general public.
And how many people does that group have on it?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't checked lately.
Yeah, I don't know either. And it's like I said, it's a page, so it's just more of liking it. And even if you don't like the page, you know, sometimes you can still push out message like in news, like Facebook feeds. You can actually pay if you want to have certain posts to be pushed out. But Emily's the one who did come up with the logo for the green that a lot of people have on their Facebook. Not just.
I'm just wondering if
I love seeing it everywhere. Because I'm like, yeah, that's cool. You know,
I took the logo and actually made a shop out of on Cafe Press. So if you want,
I thought that was really cool.
So if you want to order bumper stickers using that, I have a couple bumper stickers and buttons I gave my kids.
But it doesn't say it says reopen schools or reopen California.
I think it says open California schools.
Open California schools. Okay.
I believe I should go look.
I'm just wondering, I mean, it might be useful for us to encourage these groups to use that logo so that we kind of become more of a across the state sort of movement rather than just these little groups.
Like if I start a Facebook group for
Cornell. Sorry?
It's kind of a unifying umbrella that everyone can kind of recognize right away, like, hey, that's the open schools people.
Yeah, and like we could mention the main Facebook page on our local Facebook pages and say, you know, this is under the umbrella of, and like put that Facebook page on so people can connect to the main one or ours and do the more local work with ours. That might be a good way to start bridging these groups together. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, and it does say reopen California schools.
Logo?
That's the green. Well, Emily created it, and she said that it's just wide open. We can use that page and we can use that logo for whatever we choose to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure that she's okay with that. And then the last person I had to talk, who I don't think is here right now.
You're not supposed to swim unless you're scuba diving gear.
Is there somebody that's, maybe we should make sure everyone's muted.
Yeah, somebody's not muted there.
Okay, here, let me just mute them. This is just a stop to remind everyone, if you haven't done so yet, please put your name, email, and chat so that we have someone. Jenny is nicely keeping track of all of that for us so that we can start a listserv and talk a little bit more there. And right now, I just want to open it up because there are several people on the call that maybe I didn't have them on the list before I sent out the invite. So I would love for them to speak up and introduce themselves, or you don't have to. If you just want to ask a question of any of the participants or of the group in general, please ask away, unmute yourself and jump in.
Can I jump in? Yeah, hi. I'm Dove Mayo and I'm from Long Beach Unified down in Southern California. We're part of LA County. And we started a Facebook group called Reopen Long Beach Schools, and we've got over 2,000 members. And we've been having bi-weekly meetings with our school board. They've been very transparent with us, and they want to work with us. And at first they didn't, but we kept bugging them. We went to every board meeting. We did that on the webpage. We put, this is who you contact, agenda item what, and they finally said they're going to be transparent with us, and we have a standing meeting every 2 weeks with them. The problem is we're in LA County and they're ready to open. Our board is ready to open. They've got a reopening plan. Everybody's on board. It's just the county numbers, and we don't know what to do. I mean, we're basically at the tier system.
Wait, sorry, your county numbers, are you in purple or what color are you in?
Purple. We've
Okay,
never gotten out of purple.
Oh, so they said because of those numbers, you can't be in?
Right. we're never going to get out of purple. We're in a huge county.
Yeah.
And we have
So that's
own
our
health-
problem here. I mean, we have like, we're basically the farm for California, not in Carmel by the Sea where I live, but in Salinas where we have all of our farm workers. So our numbers are extremely high out there because they never stopped the ag workers from working. They never took a pause. So the numbers have always been high. So we're in a similar situation where the Carmel schools are closed, even though there are no cases in Carmel, but
Exactly.
we have all the cases in farm country. So even though it's 45 minutes away, we just happen to be drawn in with them, which is good for money. I mean, it brings a lot of money into the county, so no one wants to draw them out of it, but it's bad for opening schools.
Well, they're looking at the socioeconomic groups too. Doesn't matter, 60%
And it's awful for them because their kids, these people are going to work. They have no money. They're renting small rooms places and their children can't go to school and they still have to go to work in the fields. And it's horrible. It's actually devastating.
So what we're faced with here is we need Newsom or Garcetti or somebody to get the schools out of the tier system. That's the problem, is get those schools out. They should not be in the same categories as a gym, a restaurant, a doctor's office. And that's where we're stuck because we feel like we have everything in place. The school district, we're ready to open. It's Newsom and Garcetti.
That's good.
I have something to go ahead, Jonathan.
I was going to say real quick. Yeah. So yeah, it's great that you're ready to go. And I say for the other people that are in the situation with Placer, one thing that I feel like we didn't do well, although now I think my district's doing a fantastic job and a good blueprint, is when we opened up at the beginning of the school year, we were in purple and we were not allowed to open. And it wasn't until we were out of the purple and into the red that they even started talking about this. And I would say that if you're in the purple tier, get your district to a point where they are set up, which means if you're going to have a 2-tier system where you have an online program for those who want it and you have those in person, get your enrollment reassigned now, right? Generally at the beginning of at the end of a trimester, they can switch, or at the end of the semester, get that set up now. So that way everyone's online in 2 parallel programs. And as soon as you have that switch, whether it be from the state changing the rules, either through lawsuits or whatever it may be, you can then open immediately. We could have opened back in beginning of October if we had set our enrollment up correctly.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. The problem is that these school boards are unwilling to do it most of the time. I mean, in May and June, we were begging for a survey for the parents to show us how many wanted to be in school and how many didn't so that we could be prepared. And they refused to give us the survey. They only gave us a survey like a week or so ago, and it was only a hybrid option. So we're not even being allowed to set up.
Our surveys were over 80% that wanted to go back full-time if they would open the schools. And we have 25,000 students in our district.
And here,
considerable.
Yeah, and when it came to actually choosing a plan, we have roughly 75% of families that chose to go back full-time where we're at.
Dov, did you get any kind of survey or anything to prove that? What did your district do it?
Yeah, we've done 2 surveys. We did a survey in the summer and then we just finished one. Probably the results aren't out yet. They just finished it. November 30th was the last one they just did. So we're waiting for those results. Basically, I mean, we have 70,000 students and half of them are below the poverty line. And I think that's what's driving the cause even further, that people don't want to open up.
Why would that drive the cause to not open since they're the ones that need school so badly?
Because they're not vocalizing it. That's what we found at our school board. I hate to use this word, but we were chastised that we're a bunch of, I don't want to be reverse discriminated, but we're a bunch of white privileged moms and we don't know.
We've heard that over and over again in Carmel.
And so
why can't you just stay home with your kids? I mean, I actually had a man write me an email that said, your kids need you more than the school board.
Right.
I mean,
and so we're advocating, but the people that are below the poverty line, they don't have the resources to advocate like we do. And they want to be we've been in the community and they want to go back, but they're scared to say anything because a lot of them might be here illegally or whatever reason. They're working, they can't go to these meetings. So they want to go back, but the board is using it like, oh, you guys only are representing 2% of the district.
Yeah. Hey, Jennifer, where are you I have, Jennifer, can you unmute or you just want to listen?
Are you talking to me? Which Jennifer are you
Yeah.
talking to? Me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not. There's too many Jennifers in the world. I don't respond usually.
Sorry.
No,
I have two Jennifers on here, so I'm talking to both of you.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
How about you first?
I live in Salinas, Corral de Tierra area.
Okay.
We are part of Washington Union School District.
Okay.
And the other Jennifer as well.
Oh, both of you are. And so what's
Yeah.
happening there? Do you have any survey? Do you know how many parents want to go back, how many parents don't want to back or anything like that?
I don't myself because we left the district at the beginning of the year because I could see that it was basically, they really weren't giving me much information before the start of the year was going to be distance learning, but there was extremely minimal information as far as what.
How old are your kids? Are they in elementary?
Fifth grade and second grade. So they're elementary.
Yeah, so that's why. So there's just no point of doing that distance learning. It's just like, you're basically working for two different teachers, scrambling to get stuff all the time. It's easier just to homeschool, right?
But I've heard, from friends I try and keep in touch who have elementary kids, and they do, send out an occasional survey, kind of like basically, I think it was a couple months ago, or do you want to go back or not? That was it pretty much. But there was just a board meeting the other night. I watched it and pretty much all it was, there were no public comments this time at all, which was shocking, zero. In the beginning of this whole thing, it was like we would start to, get the word out and then people would write in and it was like a ton of comments and they would read them all.
So that's what part of this movement, part of this reason that I had this call was because parents are losing hope and they're losing their energy to keep fighting. And I wanted to show people that, if there is a new wave of excitement and interest and we need to work together, we can't give up. Because you know what, 2021, 22 is right around the corner. Yep. And if we're not careful, we're going to be stuck in a hybrid for another school year. And it's not by parents' choice. And that is not fair since we are the ones that are paying for our taxes and we care about our children. Like we're doing it for our kids. It's not even for ourselves. So we can't give up on it. And the other, Jennifer, did you want to say anything about your experience with Washington Union?
So Jennifer that just spoke and I are neighbors and we live in the same district. And so my experience is similar. They did send a recent survey out asking if in January people would be interested in going back hybrid. Frankly, that was sent out about a month ago and I have not seen any published results on that, but I know it is pessimistic. The likelihood that we'll be going back at all in January is not looking good. Similar to what Dove mentioned, and what you've also mentioned, Jill, we're stuck in the purple tier here. My kind of position is, I wonder if we could somehow mobilize the business community because businesses are suffering, right? Their employees can't go to work. So if they can also help advocate for this, getting kids back to schools, the reality is that this is impacting the economy in the short term,
Absolutely.
But also in the long term, it's going to impact the economy significantly. I also think that social injustice is, obviously very top of mind, but this is just keeping everything down. All those kids, that you mentioned, all those migrant farm workers and their children, they're getting no education.
And they're going to be behind a whole year. And then what are they going to do? They're going to teach to them, or are they going to teach to the kids that's parents were able to stay home and keep them, or the private school kids that come back into our schools, that left our schools because their parents could afford to put them in private and then put them back in our public schools. Yep. Who are they going to be teaching to, right?
That's right. And I just think it's astounding the impact this is going to have. Again, both right now, but also in the long term. So I do feel like maybe there's an opportunity to somehow mobilize the business community that is suffering as a result of this as well.
Yeah, I'm wondering if maybe these local Facebook pages can help with that also. I don't know if you and Jennifer might be interested in starting one for Salinas, or you and I could work on starting one for Carmel. Well, it could be for our county, even that is.
I think for the county, that's my feeling. I think for the county, or, because they're not going to want to distinguished by zip code. They actually can't.
Yeah, we should get our board of supervisors to take this
Yeah.
on. I think people can start talking to them. And all right, well, thank you so much for coming onto the call. And Linda Reed, do you have any interest in speaking for a moment to us?
Sure. I was going to
Thank you. Maybe introduce.
Sure. I was going to type up a note for y'all, but I can kind of say it and then put my notes in. I've been a board member in Palos Verdes Peninsula Unified in LA County for 6 years. I was elected as an independent, as a parent. I have 2 kids who just graduated from the district. One's a Republican, one's a Democrat. And so it was a nonpartisan thing. I got reelected with no union money. The union candidates both lost in our district. And the union's pretty embarrassed by that. I would say that I can help some of you all individually, so I don't want to go into everyone's different points. The enemy isn't necessarily Newsom and Garcetti, it's the county that you live in. So the counties are the drivers for almost all of this. And so the difficulty in LA County is that the Board of Supervisors are beholden not to teachers unions, but to business unions and that type of thing. So that's the battle that we fight in Los Angeles County. I think one thing we did well was that we had kids choose DLA or hybrid in August, knowing that the hybrid kids would start the year at home. And so when we bring kids back at different levels, we're not disrupting the system. And yeah, there's a few people that want to change, whatever, but so
See,
that
I wish my district did that. I really, that's why I kept asking them to find out who wanted to go, because you don't have to switch teachers in that case. You can stay with your teachers. And if you make the decision to switch, it's up to you.
And it also allowed the politics to stay out of it. So I had board members very conservative. Everyone needs to go back. We have one board member who's a union person. No. So I came in the middle and said, hey, why don't we just let everybody choose? Like, let's stop judging each other's choices as teachers and parents and let everybody choose what's best for them. And so when we did that back in August, that diffused some of it. We've been able to bring back some special needs kids. We've been able to bring back our bottom 25% of kids in cohorts without teachers. So just with like an aide taking their classes distance at the secondary level. We have TK and K coming back. And what we did there was the union originally in meetings with our staff said they didn't want oh no, the teachers are scared. None of the teachers want to go back. So the teachers are sitting in that meeting, just TK and kindergarten teachers, and they don't speak up. So we came back to the board and I said, that's funny because I've talked to teachers who are dying to go back. They said they'd go back and teach in hazmat suits. So I suggested to our superintendent that you just meet with each school site individually and let them decide. So again, it's the choice of that site. So we have 10 elementary schools. One started back their kindergarten class on Monday. Some aren't starting till January. That's okay. And parents haven't been upset with that because every school has a plan that works for their school. So we're also we just got our waiver approved. So first and second grade, the same thing. We have sites where first grade team is going to go back 3 weeks before the second grade team because that works best for their site and their situation. So that has allowed us to kind of keep some of the emotion out of it and make a little bit of progress. But that said, in LA County, our kindergartners that went back Monday might not be able to go back anymore after this weekend, right? So that's the difficult part. But I really think for us, the enemy is our county board of supervisors.
And I wonder if that's different in each area.
It might be like, I think it depends really on the politics of the county and how big it is.
And who the players are, because you get we have this lawyer, that's our teachers union representative, who's seized so much power. And I'm sure that's not the case in every district. But I do think that you made a good point about the businesses. And someone else, Jennifer, had just said that we should be contacting our businesses. Maybe Linda, do you think that that's one of the ways to do it, to try to get the businesses on board, to get our county supervisors on board, or get a letter to our county supervisors from all of our pediatricians, or like, how do you see that? How do we do that? How do we engage the business community, get them on our side to influence the board of supervisors?
Well, one thing that has worked here a little bit, not totally, but a little bit, is to engage your local city councils if you have small communities, because they sometimes represent the businesses. So we have a city councilman in one of our 4 cities that's part of our school district who's a public policy professor, and generally speaking, probably a pretty liberal guy, but he's so upset because his businesses can't open. And so he's worked with us and he has contacts at the county board of supervisors. And it's not just writing a letter to the elected official, but getting a hold of their staffers and setting up meetings with them. So this week I met with our Congressman Ted Lieu's staff. I'm talking with the county supervisor, mental health person on Tuesday, like to try to get the people who are specifically involved in one aspect of this, that it's your passion. For us, the mental health piece is really big. So getting the mental health person and kind of shaming them into understanding. Our state assemblyman is generally a really liberal guy, but his staffer understands what we're doing, and at least I can get parameters from them. And I just said, look, if you're beholden to the unions, we don't have to have a conversation. I get it. But if you're not and you want to hear about what's going on with our kids, let me help you with that. So, I mean, I'm doing that as an elected official, and maybe I can get someone to call me back right away, but I could just as easily set up a call for our PTA council president or somebody that represents groups of parents. You say I have a Facebook group and I represent a group of 500 parents. That'll get someone on the phone to talk to you and at least help understand. We just found out the other day in our county that the counties actually can divide up people. They've got the data to divide us up into tiers, not just the whole county at large. So in LA, that's huge. Other counties might not make as much of a difference. So we learn more every day as well. We also had parent committees set up right away. Our superintendent set up parent committees to start the summer, including a parent health committee, parent committees at each grade, kind of intermediate, secondary, and elementary. So that's helped parents have a voice in the process. It hasn't been perfect. Some of them are still really annoyed that they feel like because they're not getting what they want, because not everybody agrees. But that's helped a little bit in terms of at least the superintendent sitting there for an hour every week, hearing feedback directly from parents, instead of just submitting written comments at a board meeting or even coming on a board. It also, the unions aren't involved in some of those conversations. So it's just parents, superintendent, board. So that makes sense.
Okay, that's really interesting. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else that wanted to ask any questions or share their experiences? Liz?
Hi there.
Hi, Liz.
My name's
You can introduce yourself. Thank you.
Sure thing. I'm Liz Engel, and I help moderate and run the California Parents for Full-Time School group. It is California-wide. It's not anywhere near the scale of Kevin and Jonathan, but it is predominantly a lot of San Diego and Southern California folks. And what we've found in San Diego is that even though we are a very large county, we do have a lot of variances, unlike, with Los Angeles County, where everything's primarily closed. We have many elementary schools. I'm sorry, if you're not muted, could you please mute?
Listen, if you want to do it, let me talk in English.
Or
This two piece left from top.
can somebody mute? Thank you. Just easier. So we found that there's a lot of variance between the school districts. So my two kids are zoned to go to the Encinitas Unified School District here in North San Diego. And I also pulled my kids at the beginning of the year because I did not see this going in a good fashion. And so one is homeschooling through a charter, one's homeschooling through a independent program. But what we're having happen right now is things were moving forward with our elementary school, whereas they're stagnant for San Diego Unified, which is a good thing for us, right? To have that, that difference. But now that we're moving back into the purple tier, it's like all of the brakes have been put on. The union voices are coming out. The sky is falling again, even though the science has, been compounded on top of each other the last 8 months to show that kids are safer in school. You're reducing spread by having them in school. And so it's selective science, and they're choosing who they want to listen to. And there is massive fatigue amongst parents in our group and also parents in our district. And when we started doing this, I, had a lot of support. I had a lot of gumption in me, and I just finally had to take my kids out. But it's time to get re-engaged, because if we don't do something, like I think somebody else said on the call, 2021 is just going to be a wash as well. And they're proposing things like, if they do bring more kids back, that they're going to have silent lunchtime and have to sit there in silence to eat their lunch to avoid the spread.
I heard that, and that's something that I think that all the groups should be posting about and should insist that they do not do. It is just,
it's wrong. It's
so
a detention center for kids
to do this to our children. It is then it doesn't, there's no science behind it.
No.
I don't even know where they're getting it from. In a
So-
mask, you take your mask off, you're 6 feet away. They told us to be 6 feet away. We can be 7 maybe, but why would the children have to be silenced? I don't get it.
It's crazy
just
because
making it up.
they are, and because the teachers have more risk, you know, having their lunch in a break room together than our kids do out mixing amongst classrooms, and the
That's
teachers
true.
aren't even out there. So nobody's pushing back because parents aren't calling in. We had our last board meeting, which I found out after. No parents called in, and 7 teachers out of the district called in to push back on bringing more
So I
students.
think the board is I think the union is organizing that, and in
I
our
believe
case, it's
so.
unusual. It's unusual in our case. Sadly, our board is all in the pocket of the union, and that's a long story as to how that happened. But I mean, I love hearing from people like Linda and Jean because they are nonpartisan and they're there for the kids. They're not. They don't have another agenda. They're not serving other interests. They're just serving the children. And
Right.
unfortunately, my board isn't there for that reason. I don't know why. We elected them, so they should be representing us. But I think they're confused. They think they're representing the teachers, and they actually really believe that. I had one board member announce that she had been to a some kind of policy forum, and she learned what she was supposed to be doing, and she was supposed to be listening to the teachers and working for the teachers. So I
Right.
think some of them actually believe that their job is to represent the teachers, not to represent the taxpayers and those that voted for them, which is really
100%. 100%. One thing that I have been thinking about with how to reinvigorate this and how to keep it going and to unify the groups is social media is great. The groups are great. I think the diversity between the groups, even if there is some overlap, is good. In case one group gets shut down, you still have people connected. But the other piece that I think is missing is how do we mobilize off of social? And I think, you know, starting a umbrella website and building an email list and having something that goes out maybe monthly or even bi-weekly as we're trying to mobilize things with the asks, the form letters, the phone numbers. I created a master list of contact information across the state and posted it in the group to make it easy for people to find their representatives. And I asked people I crowdsourced it a little bit and got people to add to it. So it grew. But we need to make it easy for parents.
Yeah,
to
that's
mobilize, and
absolutely,
they need to see
that's what
something different.
Yeah, we could use your help with that for sure, because the lawyer that I've been using, she told me the number one thing that you all have to do once you get this listserv organized and you've got these chapters on Facebook or whatever, you need to go to the smaller groups and tell them, like, on a certain day, call your representatives, give them the phone numbers, make it easy for them. There's just interns answering these phones, you know, but if they say 8 people today called in and said, why aren't you opening schools, or it's safe to open schools, that's all they have to do. They have to write it down. And having worked for a senator before, like, they do go and ask those people to give them the tallies, like, what are people calling in for? So we can get through to our representatives if we do some kind of organized ask and get people to call in and show them how easy it is by giving them the phone numbers, you know, and then getting them to report back and say, like, let us know if you called, you know, even if it's on Facebook, like, give a comment. But we do need the listserv to start organizing those things. And you could, it sounds like you've already done that. So you could help us do that on the state level. And then we could try to do that more locally, either with our Facebook groups or with local listservs.
And I have,
someone else wanted to talk. Sorry.
This is Jonathan real quick. I just want to mention, I did purchase a domain, reopencaliforniaschools.com and reopencaliforniaschools.org. So
Okay,
I don't have the resources to build it. And, you know, my hope was to always collaborate with someone who knew how to do that. But just keep that in mind. So if someone has that skill, you know, that's out there, and I'm willing to send, you know.
I mean, I can, if we use a Squarespace or something easy. I'm not going to go in and build a full WordPress site. First of all, I'm not that good at it, but Squarespace I can set up pretty easily. So it's just a
okay, and that's another thing that we could talk about. We should have a discussion on the listserv once we get created, also on if we do want to raise some money from our groups, because that's one of the things that we could possibly spend money on as well, if we thought that we needed a website. But for now, we could start off with something like that could be built on. So thank you so much for buying that website for all of us really in California that are trying to get schools open. That's great. And Nobella, I think you just joined the call. I was wondering, or maybe you did a little while ago. Hey, Nobella, I was
Hey.
wondering if you could just talk a little bit about what you've done so far and what your situation.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Nobella. My kids, we live in Livermore, California. So we're part of Alameda County, which was originally on the watch list. We're in the Bay Area. We are tied to Oakland, Berkeley, and Hayward. They had higher numbers, I guess. But again, scientifically, in comparison to, places that had a lot higher numbers and now are already back, none of this feels justified at all. I started a Facebook group called Reopen Livermore Schools, and within like 2 weeks I got like over 500 members. I just kind of started getting involved because I was on friendly terms with the superintendent out here, and she was communicating with me. She knew I had a big community following because I have other community Facebook groups within the community for moms. So she was, I think, trying to just stall me. So she was giving me a lot of PR fluff when I thought she was kind of being honest with me and open with me and sharing things with me. But now I'm starting to realize that she was just kind of giving me PR fluff and trying to keep me.
She was trying to keep track of what you were doing too.
She was trying to keep track of what I was doing, but she was also trying to get me to pass on positive information to keep parents from rising up. So we just kind of started rising up back in October. The first board meeting we organized and went to was October 20th, where a bunch of us parents got up and spoke. We were not emotional. We were very stoic. We were very respectful. And we just said, listen, the science just doesn't justify it. We had quotes from the CDC director, Robert Redfield. So at that board meeting, we were basically promised parents will have options. We're just fine tuning the plans, even though they've had 8 months. And in 1 month, our county went down 2 tiers. We went from purple tier to orange tier in 1 month. So our district has literally had 8 months to prepare for this. I mean, they kept saying, well, it keeps changing, but I even told them during the board meeting, it might be changing, but it's been changing for the positive. So it shouldn't be that hard to make plans when things are going better than expected. So October 20th, we were basically promised at that board meeting that parents will have some options soon. They're fine-tuning plans. Well, it became very clear that was not the case because 3 weeks after or 2 weeks after that board meeting, we received an email that, basically if we move forward with the only way we'll move forward with a hybrid model is if the community gives us a super majority vote, a 67% commitment to the hybrid model before they'll even consider opening for hybrid. So that means 67% of Livermore parents have to commit their kids to a hybrid model, and their hybrid model is full of obstacles here in Livermore. So basically, they told us if you commit to hybrid, there is a chance that your child's teacher and classmates will change, and there's a chance that your child's school will even change. So that scared off a lot of parents that were in support of the hybrid model. Originally, they were itching to get their kids back. And now the fear of, having your child potentially be at a completely different school, potentially on the other side of town, scared a lot of parents from voting. So now we're at a 50-50, basically 50% of the community voted against the hybrid and 50% voted for. With a bunch of friends of my own, basically they were like, we didn't even vote because.
So that's exactly what happened here. And Jenny's getting a lot of the same things in her community. We only got the hybrid and the distance learning. And then, so I did my own Survey Monkey, and I took a few hundred students in a day, and I saw right away that we were really like 50% want to go back full time, 7% want to go to the hybrid, and 44% wanted to, or 43% wanted to do the distance learning only. So it is just false, and it's a shame. It's spreading false information to just give a survey that doesn't include a full-time option.
Well, and then our survey, I mean, for us, a full-time option isn't even possible at this point because our county is one of the strictest counties in California. Alameda County has basically said, absolutely not at this point. we are limiting the number of students. So full-time is not even an option. So that's not even up to the district at this
Yeah,
point.
so that's interesting. I think it's different in different places because Linda was saying the same thing, and she's on the board, Linda Reed, in LA County. And it sounds like in your case as well, that it's really a county problem that we have to do.
Well, that's just part of the problem, right? I mean, the
Same
county,
here.
it's a county problem from just the full-time perspective, but the county has given our district the green light since we've been in the orange tier for over a month. So they keep saying we're fine. They keep passing the buck. Basically, the district is blaming the task force. The task force, some of the parents on that task force are actually in my group, and they're saying, it wasn't us that wanted the supermajority. So
I wish
everyone's
you're going to
passing
have
the
to go
buck.
back and listen to the recording because your story is the same as several. I mean, everyone's saying the exact same thing. It's just crazy. That's exactly what's
everyone
happening
is
in
passing
so
the
many
buck, and
schools.
during
Yes,
the board
everyone's,
meeting.
everyone's doing that. Okay, so I don't want to take up too much more time. If anyone else wants to speak, can you let me know right now? Because I'm just going to review what I think our next goals are. Does anyone want to say anything or ask any questions before I? Yeah, please.
Sorry, I didn't know if there was a raise of hands.
No, go for it. Jump in. Just introduce yourself. Hi.
So hi, my name is Anushka Wardy. I'm in Queen Fulmer's district. I started with 3 other parents that I met on Nextdoor, actually raising concerns back in July. We started a website. It's called La Morinda Pals, and Pals stands for Parents Advocating for La Morinda Students. And we immediately had a lot of traffic. We had probably 3,000 views per week for several months. It's dying down, just like what everybody else is saying. Parents are starting to get burned out, but at the same time, they're getting fired up. And I feel like it's a new group. Now, all these parents that were thinking they were going back with their K through 2nd grade, this past week, a lot of districts were supposed to start, and boom, they didn't. And now they're all like, we need to protest. We need to get yard signs. And I'm like, where were you 3 months ago, right? So my question
I know,
is,
I feel like you tried to warn them and they were complacent, and now they're seeing, what you were trying to warn them.
We were hesitant to start a Facebook group, thinking that it was going to be a nightmare to maintain. So that's why we chose for the website. And we do the same thing as some of the other people here in the meeting is doing. We're providing all the contacts to the elected officials and district school board members for easy communicating. We do post the upcoming events, meetings. But anytime we have shared our website on the private Facebook groups, we get literally vilified by some it's a small group of the same people that are spreading disinformation about us, saying that we're spreading disinformation, that we're science deniers, that we're partisan, that we're all racist even. So we've organized a rally, we've organized a petition, very successful.
I'm so sorry about that. It's really horrible that, and it's not even fact-based or science-based what they're saying to you.
No.
So just keep it up. Do not back down. I think that this is going to help if we stay organized. And did you put in the chat your name and where you're from in your email address?
Yeah, it's lamarintapels.com.
Okay, thank you so much. And someone had asked, and I think Nobella just put it in. I think I just saw that it came in for her site as well. So let's start this listserv. I am really interested in the idea of getting this open school logo out and having us create our local groups with the same logo so that we can kind of, and referencing the larger websites so that we can kind of be connected. It looks like we're under one umbrella. I think it'll give us more power in our groups and more, just prove to people that we're serious and that it's not just us in this little group and that we're getting harassed for, you know, that there's more in California. And that's going to give parents that are scared to step in and start claiming that this is unfair. That'll make them feel more comfortable if they see that, well, there's another group here that's 10,000 parents, right? So we can give them some confidence maybe in that way. And then let's learn about the parent union more also on the listserv. I'll have Cece tell us a little bit more about it on the listserv so we can hear from her and see if you're interested in joining that. And then we'll talk about how we can coordinate actions. And I think the website is great. Let's see if we can work on that together. We could even schedule a call. I know a friend of mine here works on websites. We could even schedule a call where we could talk about that and how we can help get that done. And we could even with the listserv schedule separate calls, you know, talk about, have our large group representatives meet with the Facebook and maybe have small groups meet to discuss or anything like that. Like we just have to start talking and coordinating. And I think the listserv is a good way to start that. And does anybody else have anything to add as a final note that maybe I've forgotten that we should do?
I have
first?
a couple of things.
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
I know I heard a lot of people saying, oh, the tiers, the purple, the different colored tiers. The way the schools in Orange County are working, or at least in our district, is once the schools open, they are not held to those tiers, those colored tiers at all. They become a bubble of their own. And as long as there's no infections that go over 5% in the district, even though we've gone back to purple in Orange County, which is insane, but even though we're back in purple, our schools are still open and they will remain open as long as the schools and the district remains at a low positivity rate for COVID infections.
Wow, so that's what New York City didn't do?
Once you get open, and that's something you guys absolutely should be bringing up to the school board.
Yeah.
Because they're saying, oh, we can't open because we're in this you know, bogus color. You just say, hey, listen, once a school district opens, then they're independent of that and they're not held to that same standard.
And I think that's...
Go ahead, Jonathan.
So I was gonna say, I think that's true. Even if you're open for the smallest, like if you just brought back kids for special ed, I think that still classifies as being open.
That's true. And the same's happening in San Diego County as well.
Okay.
Right. And another thing I know that was mentioned, that the Board of Supervisors are the ones, it's not the Board of Supervisors. The Board of Supervisors here in Orange County would open, if they could vote to open the schools, they would have done it. It is the governor, number one, the California Department of Health, Public Department of Health, and the county health officer. That is the ones, those are the people absolutely responsible for whether the school's open or not. See, I could just give up right now because my kids are back in school and I'm happy. And that's why a lot of people are starting to write off this whole thing because they're like, oh, our kids are back in school. What do we care? I'm not that way. I'm to the point where I'm going to continue fighting even if my kids are in school, because I know that until every single parent has a choice whether to send their kids back, my group will always be there for people. And I will always advocate for people to have the same choice that I have now.
Thank you so much for keeping it up because we're hanging on
You have to stop. You can't stop fighting. And when I say fighting, you have to get out in public. You got to go. And I think that Dove, I think you guys had a protest in Long Beach. I remember I posted something about that in our group. That is a really good way to get attention. Get as many people as you can. Get them out there because they may not say that, oh, they don't care, but they do. Trust me. You get out there and you make a lot of noise, and don't be nice to them because.
But Kevin, how do we get to Newsom? How do we get to Newsom? Newsom and Garcetti, huh?
You recall Newsom. That's it. That's the answer.
But by the time he's recalled, my kids are going to be graduated.
Okay, this is my 3 o'clock limit, and my son has to sign on to Guitar Zoom. But you guys can carry on separately about that. But yeah, I think we have a lot of things that we can coordinate on, and we're going to start the listserv, and I will connect with you all on that. And let's do this call again. And I don't know if we're going to have to wait until after the holidays. You guys can suggest on the listserv, decide when you think we should do another call, and we can just talk again soon. And thank you so much for everyone spending so much time together. And I will see you again soon.
Thank you.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. everybody.